What's up, everybody? It is Cam Cave, also known as Super K here. Today, we're going to be talking about the issue of how people cope and how they celebrate. Um, and so, why is that an issue? It is an issue because I'll get into what coping is in a second, but when our coping is the same as our celebration, our mind creates our pleasure center begins to get triggered when we engage in our coping skills. And so we're creating negative habits that lead to reinforcement in engaging in negative habits. So, what is coping? Coping, it's a clinical term that we use a lot of the times, often in treatment planning, working with kiddos. We will teach the client effective coping skills. And it's really hard to explain it without using the word cope within the definition. But basically, it's how we handle life's stressors. And a stressor can be anxiety, a stressor can be stress, anything that comes into your life that disrupts the homeostasis and balance that you are in. And so when we teach these coping skills or ways to externalize the problem and anxiety outside of what the client is handling, we typically focus on things that are not rewarding, that have, at least as a behavior technician and as a therapist, we try and focus on things that have a neutral balance within the client's life. And so, again, this video, I'm not the master of coping skills. I'm not the master of therapy. This is just things I've noticed and things that I think will help society and you, if you're watching this, in general. And so, the issue is, as a society, we have, in general, we reinforce behaviors. For example, we, rather than externalizing something and pulling ourselves away from the problem and dealing with our emotions in that moment, we try to numb it. And so, how do we numb it? We go and eat. That typical example of, someone gets broken up with, what do? They're sitting on the couch watching TV with a bucket of ice cream. It triggers the same response in your brain as if you are, you just got a new job. Now you're treating yourself to a fancy dinner. Food is like a drug to our brain. And so when we are giving ourselves this treat of ice cream because we're having really raw emotions, our brain, it's like when we're training a dog. If you tell the dog to sit and you reinforce that behavior because they sat with a treat, you're doing the same thing with ice cream. So I feel sad, therefore I'm going to eat. And so then you get into that mindset of, okay, now every time I feel an emotion, I'm going to go and grab that pretzel, I'm going to grab that chocolate bar because it makes me feel better. And then you reinforce food being a problem behavior, and so you just start having issues with food. The other thing, drinking, right? People pick up their drinks when they are having a bad day. They turn to alcohol because it physically numbs us and emotionally numbs us. We like to forget the pain. Well, then, your body becomes so used to this euphoria that you get when you drink that you develop a drinking problem. But it also reinforces yourself that when you celebrate as well, it's a good feeling. You go out with friends, you have a couple drinks. You get a job, you pop a bottle of champagne. And so our mind becomes so hardwired. It's like we're walking down a path. We've created this path for good feelings, and then we're walking that same path when we have negative feelings and when we're having stress. So our body just becomes used to, okay, well, I do these things when I feel good. I'm going to do these things when I feel bad, and hopefully I'll get the same result. But what ends up happening is you're reinforcing those negative behaviors because you can numb how you're feeling by picking up a drink, by picking up food. You go out with friends, and then that also goes back to drinking. But that's not saying don't have your support system. It's knowing where to draw the line. Externalizing the problem and talking with friends is different than I'm having a crappy day, I just got fired, I just got broken up with, so I'm going to go out and drink. It's completely different. That just numbs the problem. It might feel good in the moment, but continued exposure to that stimuli, you're reinforcing that behavior. Not the behavior of getting fired, but the behavior of irrational beliefs, irrational thoughts. I did something bad, I should reward myself, kind of thing. Now, it's different than externalizing it. When we externalize it and we remain present focused, so we engage in mindfulness, there's a Western taboo about saying mindfulness. That can be prayer, that can be kind of focusing on your senses, is how a lot of therapists word it. I'm going to focus on what I see, what I smell. I'm just going to be grounded in the present moment, because when you're grounded in the present moment, you're not focusing on anxiety, you're not focusing on depression, which is past, you're not focusing on what's to come in the future of anxiety, and you kind of externalize yourself from the present, or the moments that are, you're getting grounded in the present, and you're pushing out everything else. People go for runs because running, that gets endorphins in your body, and it's a healthy coping skill. You're externalizing yourself from what you're doing, you're separating it out. That doesn't have any negative consequences unless you're going for 15-mile runs to disassociate from society. That's a different issue for a different topic. And that's not saying change how you celebrate. It's just this, the purpose of this is change how you cope. How do we deal with life stressors? And finding healthy coping skills is stuff that people focus their life on. What am I going to do to feel better in my present moment? A lot of times we tell our clients to journal, to draw, to be engaged in art. Those are neutral, right? You enjoy them. There's no risk benefit. There's no risk, but there is an inherent benefit of just sitting and being present moment and getting that behavior out. The other thing that you can do as a coping skill, which has some risk, is addressing the issue, right? What can you do in that moment to change? It goes aside from externalizing it. It goes aside from numbing it. How do you change it? The thing with that is that it can be emotionally charged, right? If you just lost a job, right? In the long run, you need to figure out how to get a new job. But addressing it and changing can cause some anxiety in that present moment. So finding the time to actually be focused, know where you're at, and know when you're okay to find that job. The biggest issue and the main purpose of this is keeping celebrations separate from your coping. When we are able to have a moment of happiness and, go out with your friends and have a cheeseburger and a drink, right? That is different than my life sucks, I'm going to drink and I'm going to just party the night away to numb my pain. So try and find different ways to do that. It's hard. I'm not sitting here saying, go do it. I'm going to tell you to do it, right? A lot of Americans, a lot of people in the world, they come home from a really tough day and they say, I just need to crack open a cold one. And, trying to shift that of, I had a really tough day, I'm going to sit, I'm not going to check my phone, right? That is the hardest thing. I'm not going to check my phone, I'm just going to sit for 5 minutes and decompress. And you'll find, even just that shift, okay, now, I actually just want to have a glass of wine, I want to watch some TV, is a lot different than I'm going to come home and just numb everything. Because that's what alcohol does, is it numbs. And I'm getting aside from the point of this video again. Have your celebrations and have your times where you are actually dealing and handling the stressors that you're dealing with. Because in the long run, it's going to make those celebrations a lot better. You won't have those oh, this is just another thing that I do, just putting a different label on it. That's my thoughts on it. If you have any comments, suggestions, you disagree with me, let me know. I'm always open for suggestions. I hope you all have a fantastic day, and like my videos and subscribe, and I will see you all later. Goodbye.